All right. I think we're live. Good morning. It's it's early here on the East Coast in Canada, but we're streaming some 3D world creation today. I'm doing another multi-stream, so this is a again experiment for me. I'm trying to sort of understand how I might be able to stream out to multiple platforms, a Twitter account, Facebook page that I have, YouTube, and Twitch. Those are kind of the four. And I did this on Saturday, kind of as a wrap up stream, and it looked like it worked. It did stream out properly, everything was good. But the part that I was trying to figure out, and I want to see if I can get kind of dialed in, is the chat. And this just might be like a limitation of these platforms. I know in particular Twitter doesn't have a great streaming setup. But the goal and what I'm trying to do, and if you look on the stream, I don't know if you'll see this or not, but basically there's a chat window, and what the hope is that when people comment on Twitch or comment on YouTube or comment on Facebook or Twitter, that these streams will actually pop up and I can answer them as we go. It's not a huge deal right now because just starting out, don't have a lot of people that are chiming in, but I definitely want to be in a position where I can kind of do that properly. So on the stream, this might be a little bit more clunky than normal. I'm just looking, you may see this pop in. I'm just looking at, there would be a bit of a delay. I'm looking at something called Restream right now. I'm just kind of going through and seeing, yeah, like there's chat here. I'm just kind of seeing if I can get any information here on the in particular stream. So there's like, it's showing me I can see this on different channels. So if I flip over to YouTube or stream, so there's like, it's showing me YouTube looks like it's running. Yeah, and I've also got, so in the bitrate setting. Okay, well, it says the bitrate is too high, but at least we're going to see if this works. I'm just kind of curious, like what happens in terms of when it posts. Does it post a tweet? Does it just go live? How does that exactly work? So I'm just going to kind of bounce around a few platforms. It looks like, yeah, it looks like we're going. So it looks like Twitter is running, which is good. So I've got something going there. The question is, what I'm trying to kind of figure out is, can I get a chat open? And it doesn't look like I can on the web. So I'm going to check that out I'll check that out on my phone. If you do tune in, just my ask, I guess, for you is just drop a GM or drop a hello or something like in one of the chats of wherever you're watching. It helped me out a lot just because I can actually test this and see if this is working. I'm just doing a quick check here on Twitter. So probably hear a little echo there. Yeah, so on Twitter, it's here. So funny. It says Matsko will want you to moderate comments. Tap or swipe left on comments to mute them. I don't want you to moderate comments. Do your thing. GM. So let me just see if this one. So this is on Twitter. So I commented on Twitter, but that's yeah. I don't think that's going to come through. Let me just comment on a few other of these and see if, in fact, maybe with any luck, I can actually get. You see if with any luck, maybe I could actually get one of these comments to come in and pop through. So live chat on YouTube. So I'm just taking a quick peek, see if maybe these chats come in. So you can see this coming in now. Okay, so there's the YouTube one. Oddly coming in at the top, which I don't really understand, but that's fine for now. And then let me just go check out Twitch real quick, and then we'll get right into it. Let's see, Twitch. Let's go. channel. Okay, so Twitch looks like it's live, which is good. Let's go, make sure it's muted. Channel. I don't actually know. Okay, so Twitch looks like it's live, which is good. Let's go. Okay, so there we go. Hopefully that works. Yeah, I don't know. With Twitch, I don't see a spot to actually get to the chat. Unfortunately. Yeah, I don't see a spot where I can actually comment in the chat. Okay, well, that's, yeah, so it's just sort of figuring this all out and just seeing, you know, how this works. What it may end up being long term, or what I've been kind of thinking about, is sticking the streams to Twitch for the most part. I feel pretty comfortable there just in terms of, you know, commenting and interacting and how it all works. You know, I would like to have, you know, this stuff kind of out in other places, but typically these streams, Monday through Friday, I'm trying to do 2 4-hour blocks. So basically 8 hours of streaming, which does seem a little crazy, but I've gone through this before in the stream. And basically this is accountability for me. So it's kind of focusing on, you know, what is my actual task or goal that I'm working on a daily basis, and making sure that I'm focused on that. I'm executing that. I'm not sort of drifting into, you know, random projects, random ideas, which I definitely tend to do. It's funny because I write down like a code every day, and I usually grab something either online or just from like Chat GPT and say, hey, like, what's kind of the theme of the day? And like the quote that I had today was, the first stroke of the canvas dictates the art of the day. And it's so funny because that's like such a true statement for me, because if I sit down, you know, at my computer and I've, you know, got Unreal Engine and Blender and Gaea and all these like tools, if I just sort of decide that day, or I start to wander into something that I'm thinking about, or a problem I want to solve, like I just go down that rabbit hole and I'm gone. And I can get to a point where, yes, it's productive. Yes, I'm learning something, but I'm not ultra focused on a goal, ultra focused on something that I like absolutely have to get done for that day. So these streams are about that. And I kind of have it set up now with a bit of a structure. So the morning, at least for the next little while, the morning is going to be Blender, primarily focused on this meme card. So for those that don't know, I do 3D world recreation in 3D tools. I use Blender, I use Gaea, I use Unreal Engine, and I've been experimenting with Unreal Engine for Fortnite as a kind of a final canvas to make an interactive scene. And I specialize in recreating real world locations. And in particular, this one that we're working on right now is based in Sedona, Arizona, in a place called Cathedral Rock. And you'll get an idea of my process here as we go, but I won't try to over-explain this, you know, too much. But basically, the original art that I usually create for any scene is I try to create a photorealistic landscape photo render of that location. And you can see that here if I just open up this image and go into my reference and I pop this open, you can see this is the kind of the primary medium or the primary type of work that I do. So this will go full screen here. This probably is full screen now. And yeah, with this, you know, on the left is a photo that I took at the real world location. I actually went there twice. I scout out these locations. I look for compositions that I like, a photographer by trade, by background. And, you know, I try to find something I'm really kind of excited about. And while I'm there, I do a bunch of 3D scanning. I do photogrammetry. I do LiDAR scanning. I also typically get actual remote sensing data from these locations. So in this case, I actually acquired LiDAR data from the local region, from the municipality in Sedona. So they flew an airplane around Cathedral Rock, and they actually did little pulses of laser to determine the height map. And I get that data. I also usually get radar data, so I get more terrain data from the surrounding area, and I bring that all into these tools, and I sort of recreate the scene in 3D. And once I have the scene, what gets kind of fun is I can like texture it using the reference photos I took and the scans I took. I can light it according to the actual time of day that I was there, my reference photo. And then I can place a camera and try to replicate as closely as I can that scene, that feeling that I had when I was there. And the reason why, let me just see, hold on, I see something in the chat, but I can't. This is the annoying part. I can see it, but I can't actually see. Let me just pop over to my dashboard. Hey, cheers from Palo Alto. Hey, whoever MC, appreciate it. Yeah, so I'm getting bad with the chat. So that's coming in from YouTube, which is super, super cool. There we go. I appreciate that, MC. That's, yeah, I appreciate seeing the chat working is super cool. And I appreciate you dropping in. So cool. So back to what we're working on. So, on the left is our photo, on the right is a render. And I'm really proud of this because it on paper, it looks to me, it's pretty good. It's pretty close. And you can really see this in like the way the lighting and the shadowing is. It's a little darker probably on screen, but we've got the full kind of landscape of Cathedral Rock, which is this, not quite the same level of detail that that we have in the photo, but it's close. And then we've got the cactus and like this little mud area and this pond. And I start with this, and I've actually usually mint these photos and make them available for sale. And I've got a really cool group of collectors that have actually purchased some of these photos in the past. But then that's where the fun starts. So it's just the beginning. The cool part about the process is that, you actually have the 3D scene, which you can really get creative with. And in this one, this is not typical. And this is part of the stream this week. You're going to see me clean this up. But what happened was when they scanned Sedona for me, they actually had a spot that was like a dead zone. So there was no data that came in, and you can kind of see it. It's basically like you can see it here, right? So all of a sudden you get this cutoff on the scene, and then you get kind of these pulses that it does look like a little bit of elevation, but it's not at all reflective of what was in the scene. And if you take a peek at, let me see if I can get a new window, and I'll bring you there. Okay, here we go. So earth.google.com. Oh, sorry about that. So if we go here, and I think we might even have this in a project. Let's just see. Yeah, so if you look here in Sedona, you can see this little yellow square. And this is Cathedral Rock, right? It's right here on the scene. And if you kind of look around, if you've been to Sedona, the airport's over here. The town of Sedona downtown is on this side of the airport. And there's all these like really incredible hikes all over the place. But one of the marquee ones in Sedona is Cathedral Rock. And you actually access it from this side. And you can't see the trail on here super well. You can see it, but I can't follow where it goes start to beginning. But basically, you kind of hike in around here, and you can eventually hike up to the peak of Cathedral Rock. But the viewpoint that I went to is called Super Secret Slick Rock Trailhead. And if you scroll on this side, there's a road here in Sedona that comes up to this little parking lot. And you can't really see, there it is on Google Maps. So if you look here, this is the parking lot. You see it's even picked up a few cars. I parked my van literally right here for probably 3 or 4 nights in a row. And the idea was I was waiting for a particular moment. So if you scroll kind of through here, the hike goes through this little part here, and it comes out down to this area. And if you go right on the top of this little kind of indentation right here. So if you see, I'll move it aside because my chat is blocking it. So this little indentation right here, okay? So right there, if it rains in Sedona, which is not super often, this will fill up with water. And if you kind of zoom the camera down, maybe over here, I don't know. There we go. You actually see Cathedral Rock behind it. So this location is that data that I was looking for. It could be that the scanning came to here and then it didn't actually get this part. That it could also be, I mean, there's not a lot of elevation change in this little valley. Maybe that's the situation, but you can kind of see from just the way that this sort of gradient happens, there's just no detail. You look in, this part of the scene, there's a reasonable amount of detail on the actual terrain, but over here there's nothing. So unique situation for me, but basically I recreated that puddle up here at the top, and then kind of projected the background image being Cathedral Rock here. So it's not ideal because it doesn't give me full flexibility to kind of move a camera around and adjust the scene, but I've got some more data for Sedona. I'm going to fix that probably in the afternoon stream, and then we're slowly bringing all this data into 3D tools. So we're going to bring it into Unreal Engine. We're going to bring it into Fortnite, which we'll get into later on. I'm just kind of peeking through here and seeing. Yeah, really Twitter is tough. I can't. Yeah, it says commenting is off now. It's great. It's so weird. I don't know. I don't know with Twitter. It's really annoying. I'm in Twitter on my own tweet. It's something maybe we'll have to clean up, and yeah, we'll have to see. I can't comment. This is commenting is off. Connect to Periscope in your account. That's really crazy. So Periscope's not a thing anymore, but somehow Twitter is refusing to let people comment unless they're connected to Periscope. This Elon Musk thing. It's got to be fair. I mean, honestly, I love the idea. I really honestly love the idea of streaming on Twitter. Yeah, thanks a lot. I will, MC, for sure. It's they're all saved, so it'll be saved on YouTube, and we'll save it on it'll be Twitch and Facebook and all those things. But yeah, sorry, I was just rambling about Twitter, because I have a great audience on Twitter, in particular the audience that collects my art, and it's a shame that I can't get a really good commenting system in there, because that would be awesome to be able to kind of let people comment there on. I'm just looking at my account, seeing if there's any chance that the stream is running on my page. Oh, it looks like it is. Okay. So it's running on my Facebook page, which is cool. I'll just do a quick test, GM, see if that actually comes in. Okay, that's cool. So the good news is the commenting looks like it's working it looks like it's working fine on Facebook. It looks like it's working fine on YouTube, and it looks like it's working fine on, well, we're going to try Twitch real quick. Let me just see. There's got to be a way to go into, let's see, GM. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so Twitch works, Facebook works, YouTube works. Super cool. Let me just see something here. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, it's anyway, it's something I got to work on, but yeah, we've got the chat working. Twitter's the only one that's not. But yeah, we're rocking. Okay, so let's get into this with Sedona. So the little rant I was doing is just saying that the flexibility I get when I do it this way lets me really create a lot of things from this location. So I've always tried to create like a derivative of the art that I create. So this is the original card, right? This is the original artwork. And you can already see the render happening. There's a scene going on here with this dude hanging out in an old Volkswagen bus. He's got a tent. He's got a little cooler. He's got his lantern. There's actually a donut there, which you saw on Saturday's stream. That was actually the first thing I ever rendered. First thing I ever rendered in 3D was this donut. And you can see I've actually brought this in to the scene and put it here as a little Easter egg on the cooler. But to show you kind of the idea is if you look at this scene here and you look at, you can obviously see Cathedral Rock in the background, but I have my original camera angle. And if I click it, you can actually see this is the exact camera angle from the card. And the only thing that's changed is the aspect ratio. So we've got the same exact angle, the same composition, and you can see we brought the bus in, the dude in with the tent, and then when we switch to our secondary camera angle, which I think is this one, we get this scene, which sort of brings out the detail. Last week, I was working on sort of this pass-through to see underneath the water. It'll be a little bit hard to see on the stream, but we've got, bring this in, just sort of loads. But we've got the balloons going on, and then we've got this little kind of underwater transparency thing happening with the fish actually swimming towards the lure. And the reason why this is going to happen, and the reason why I'm doing this, is because when I flip over to the second version, which is the night mode version of this, I want to be able to show some of the things that are sitting underneath the water. So one more piece of context, and then I'll start working. Is if you, sorry for the microphone. If you're not familiar at all with my work, this is the kind of the idea here. What we're doing is I created my first 3D rendered scene, which was based in Oregon. It's this one right here. And this is, again, the regular landscape image. And then a couple months later, I created what we call a meme card, which is a tribute to the Web3 NFT culture. And this particular card has an animation that switches between, the typical vintage tourism poster, also captured within the scene in Oregon, to this sort of trippy synthwave vibe meme bus with all this art and sort of a lot of little Easter eggs related to the Web3 culture. So what we're going to do today is fix up the final parts of this card. So we're going to just work on a few little details that I need to fix. And then once that's done, I'm going to go into actually converting this scene, or like duplicating the scene, and actually start to lay out the view for the future meme card. That's the plan. We'll see how this works. There's a couple things I know I've got to fix. And we're just going to go through them, and I'll kind of talk a little bit as I go, but just if questions come in, I'll answer them. Otherwise, I'll just work away, and yeah, we'll see where we get. Okay, so the thing that I wanted to fix is on a previous version. So this was one of my earlier renders. You can see that the reflection here is really what I was going for, right? So you got kind of this wavy reflection on the bus, really solid reflection of the guy, the tent, and then we've got the balloon reflecting and the lure. And what I added on this scene is the pass-through, which is great. This is what I want. We'll see underwater. But I think when doing so, I affected the reflection. So I'm trying to get this reflection here back to what the reflection was like on this scene. That's basically what I'm going to first work on today. So this is my node tree for this. And this is just sort of a bit of troubleshooting for me to kind of understand what exactly I did. Okay. So this is called Fresnel. Let me see it wrong. Yeah, the Fresnel node. So this is what's sort of identifying the angle that you're looking at the scene for like reflection in the water. When you look at water far away, you see at a certain angle, you only see the reflection, but if you look straight down, you see through. And I think you can kind of simulate this. I don't know if the reflection, interestingly, yeah, this is one thing that's kind of interesting, is the reflection is coming out Yeah, there you go. You can kind of see it here. So look, as you bring the camera down, that's what Fresnel does, right? It gives you a reflection further, or it gives you a reflection further away and a pass through closer, which is super cool. So that's what Fresnel will typically do. And then what I did here is I brought that Fresnel in to this color ramp, which was like another overlay of kind of like a gradient, just to sort of emphasize the area that I wanted. So we have this one here and this one here. And if you multiply them together, you get this. So you get kind of a more firm cutoff between the area that you want to see and the area that you don't. And then you bring it into a color ramp and you adjust. Yeah, you adjust the brightness. Interesting. I wonder if that was what I wanted to do there. Maybe that's part of the issue. This part definitely is good. I think it's just the sensitivity. I know it doesn't look like it, but you can kind of see the gradient still here where it's darker. And I think what I did is I just inverted it. And then it's hard to tell, but it is actually darker gray in the front part. I guess that's just the sensitivity of it that I needed to do to get it right. So that is working. So then we have the rest of the water, and I'm just kind of taking a peek. Oh, so this is the glass. Okay, so what it's doing is it's mixing between the glass, which is this one. Okay, so glass is basically transparent all the way through, with this one, which is just the typical reflection. So this is really what we want to edit. So this should look like this, and then the rest should blend. So let me just do a peek and see what I did. So first of all, there is displacement of the water. So this is displacing the water, and it's pulling in this displacement texture, which is fine. And then this is the roughness. So this is, that's the normal. Let me see, this should be the roughness, yeah. So what this is basically doing, I'll show you both versions. Okay, so basically this is like a little roughness texture. It's just a noise texture into a color ramp. And the idea is like, if you think about how light reflects, if it's a flat surface, you get this perfect reflection. The light comes in, from the sun, it hits the surface and it bounces into your eye. And it's essentially a direct, there's no diffraction. It's just boom, boom. And when that happens, you get a perfectly clear reflection, right? Like a mirror will refract perfectly in the water. If it's completely flat, you get essentially like a flat reflection, but that's not usually the case, right? There's little bumps on the water, little ripples. The wind goes across the waters, all these different things, and that bounces different light particles from the sun in different directions and creates, distortion basically in your eye. So all this is doing is simulating that. And what this one was doing is this one is telling us where we want that, where we want that simulation to be. Actually, hold on, let me just see if I can. Maybe this is the problem. Yeah. I think I'm seeing where the issue is. Just trying to think through it. Let's take this out for a second. Bring this in. Okay. So you can see this is without any of this bump, right? So all this is happening here is the displacement, which is this guy, which is like kind of like a wave texture coming in. this is replicating this pretty well. And what I think happened is that I wanted to add in the little bit of the variation. So you see this is like super reflective. It's almost like looks like a mirror with a little bit of rippling, whereas this one's got a little bit more roughness to it. And I don't know if that was just sort of a setting that I changed, because if you go this way, you can see, you've got pretty good amount here. So I don't know if maybe I overcomplicated that with the rippling, because really what I really wanted was just some changes in roughness. Maybe it was this one. Yeah, this would have been the one. It's very interesting. So just looks like, yeah, it looks like it got messed up. So this is noise texture. This is coming in from mapping. Okay, give me a second here to figure out what happened. Okay, it's generated. This looks good. So what I was trying to do here, which doesn't seem to be, somehow got messed up, but basically what I'm trying to do here is, if you imagine, the lake, and you get like a little bit of wind across the water, what happens, right? You get an area of a lake that has ripples, or that has like transparency, not transparency, like reflection, and areas that don't. So lake smooth reference. It's probably a bad way to do it, but I'll see if I can find something that kind of represents this pretty well. Okay, this is not bad. That just might be where the reflection is. Okay, this is maybe a better example. Okay, so yeah, this is good. Okay, so take a look at this lake, right? If we look at this lake, this is a perfect example. So if you look at this lake, you've got a couple things happening. So you've got these like kind of standard ripples going across the water, and that's creating, distortion in the reflection of these clouds. So you can see there's the clouds here, here's the clouds here, and then there's the distortion. And you can also see that distortion here in this part of the mountain. It's sort of just like a typical, think of a wave, coming in on the shore on a lake. It's very tiny, and it doesn't even make it to the shore. You don't see kind of waves coming in, but you get this sort of ripple effect out on the water. And if you're in really, really still water with no wind, this will almost go away completely. But look here, right? We've got this sort of roughness area where it looks like the texture is slightly different. So it's not just that this is less reflective, right? It is like, looks like a rougher texture, which is just another, to get too technical, but roughness is just how much of that light is being like refracted or reflected in different directions. So if you look at a, I don't know, if you look at a rock, there's no reflection because all the light's getting reflected all over the place, and the rock is basically this tiny little roughness. Yeah, a little bit of roughness on the rock is what's causing that. I shouldn't try to explain stuff this early in the morning. Is what's causing that light to get reflected everywhere, which makes it rough, versus a mirror or lake or something that's reflective. It doesn't have that, so you see it right in your eye, directly from the sun. What I'm trying to do here is create this effect. So what we're going to do is we're going to save this image. Actually, we're going to copy this image, and we're going to go into a tool called PureRef, which is my reference tool. And I don't actually have reference photos for the lake, so I'll just bring them up here. And the way with PureRef, Actually, you just sort of cluster images usually into whatever you're working on. And then I have like a little hack as I save the scene. So I export the scene. I always just save over my original. And what this is doing is saving this canvas. So it's saving the whole scene that I have created. It takes a second. And when it's done, basically when it's finished, I'm gonna go into Blender, and this is my same reference, and I'm just gonna reload. So Blender's gonna go out and grab that file again and just bring it back. And now we have our reference here in Blender. And the nice part about this is I can just bring it down here onto the scene. I can zoom it in as much as I want, and I can work with it. So the first thing that you want is a mask, and what the mask is going to do is tell Blender where you want this to be, this more reflective part, and where you want it to be the rough part. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just basically previewing this node, so this color ramp, and I'm adjusting it on this left side to try to get something that looks like that. That's essentially what's happening. So noise node is typically like this. So you just get a feel for where this scale is coming from. So we want something really large scale. We want a pretty clean cut line between the two. Okay, so we want, the edges to not be, to be pretty straight. So this is getting close, right? We've got a pretty reasonable mask here where the size of this makes sense. And now it's just a matter of, getting this to look, like something that fits the scene, which is a little bit more. So this is distortion. So this is distorting this noise texture, kind of make it a little bit more. Now this is getting better. And then let's go even smaller on the scale. So there we go. And this is really it. I mean, you're basically, like in this case, this is detail. Get more, kind of variation to it. I'm basically just adjusting these things to try to get, a good distribution of the black and the white on the scene. This color ramp is just adjusting where these values are. So the more I move the black to the right, the less essentially is in the scene. And the more I move the white, the closer it's going to create like a more harsh edge between the two. So you get sort of like right up to the edge, where so I do this, it's more of a gradient, and then you get kind of the gray. So all I'm really doing here is just moving this around and kind of trying to get something that feels like this is not bad. So, okay, so let's use this as an example. Okay, so now we've got this mask. So the cool part about this is that we could use this mask for roughness. So let's just try the roughness, and I'll show you what this looks like. So now if we bring back this guy and connect it, let's see what we got. So if you look at the scene, there are areas back here that are rough. See that? Right? And areas here that are not at all. If I go back again to the mask, you get this. So it's basically anywhere that it's black, it's going to be rough. Anywhere it's white, anywhere it's white, it's going to be rough. Anywhere it's black, it's going to be smooth. So what I think I'm going to do is a couple things. Is the texture's not quite what I want. I would like maybe a little bit more variation through here. So I'm just going to adjust the settings just until I get something that I'm kind of happy with. This might be good. You can also change the location. So if you get something you like we just did, you can move it across the scene into, essentially it's an infinite texture. So it's just procedurally, we call it procedural textures. It's just procedurally generating these, and all I'm really doing is moving like uh, all I'm really doing is moving the texture across the scene. So for example, this one looks pretty good, and this one looks pretty good, but there's a huge gap. So let's go back to this one, and then we'll just sort of plug in our final mix. So we've got kind of some variation here. I'm just trying to remember where. The problem is what we really want is we want some variation in front of that, because so this part, this tent is really a big aspect of the reflection. So if you don't break this up, it's hard to kind of notice the effect as much over here. So I'm just going to keep going until I find one that breaks that up a little bit better. And it seems like it's random generation, but it's not. It's moving. It's literally just moving. Yeah, okay, here might be a good example. We'll try this one, because that will break up the texture pretty well. It's kind of hard to see. Oh, it's not super easy to see. Okay, let me keep going, and I don't want to get one. I'll show you even a more intense version of it. Okay, that actually might be. So I changed the scale. This is interesting. So let's go with this one for now. So bring this back, and I'm gonna see. So it's not super obvious right now. Where's the line go? Okay, so the line is there. Okay, let's exaggerate this a little bit. Okay, so this was the bump node. So this is our actual mask. But what we also have is we've got this bump, and try to think of the best way to do this. Basically, what I want to do is adjust. So this color ramp is basically noise texture. So this is adding like a huge amount of. It's adding a huge amount of roughness, almost like manually, but it can be even more controlled than the regular roughness. So let's show an example. Yeah. So if I bring this into, let's get rid of this multiply. Let's bring this into the height, and let's bring this into the normal. And let's go back here. So what I did here was with this is I really just made that reflection like really distort, because I'm using the noise texture, and you can see the lights bouncing all over the place and creating this like completely, kind of messed up view. And oh, I realize now. Okay, I realized what was happening. This is the dumbness morning. Okay, let's get rid of this normal. So when I was looking at the preview, and I was like, oh, this doesn't look very strong. It's because I'm stupid and I didn't actually have it plugged in. Now you can see. Now you can see the difference. So what I did was, this is the roughness now. This is the original, right? Remember I was showing this thing? And I was like, okay, it doesn't seem like it's working that well. It's because I wasn't working at all. So now you can see, now we've got a huge difference between the reflections and the roughness. But what you can do is you can just say, okay, let's remember which one was which. So back to this. The white part of the scene is the rough part of the scene. black part's the smooth part. So you can go into the white part and just bring it to more of a gray to make it more consistent with the scene. So now you can see it almost went away, but if I bring it back up, there's kind of a place C where it kind of comes in and you get a bit of that breakup in the scene. So we've got, a nice reflection. Now, what if we don't want the reflection to be so strong? We can bring this in, right? And if we bring it all the way up here, we get kind of that full, and it's just a matter of dialing in, what do we want to do, right? We want to have a bit of a breakup between the two. And we're just sort of trying to decide how much of a change we want. So this might be a little aggressive. So we're just sort of bring this back down. And sort of the magic spot is where, it doesn't like jump out to your eye. It's not like obvious what's going on, but you do see that there is a bit of a breakup between the scene. And now the cool part about this is now that we've got the settings dialed in, we can again adjust where this is until we get one that we're absolutely, a perfect one would have really nice we just have a really nice coverage across the entire scene. It's hard to describe what I'm looking for. It's like there's clear lines coming through, so it's not, just a bunch of patches all over the place. But it also has some variance on both sides. Kind of know it when you see it. Might be pretty close. Because again, look at our reference, right? There's only, if you look at our reference, there's, an island here. There's this big strip here, kind of a couple little jagged edges here, and then this whole area in the back. And if you look at this, and you imagine this sort of as the same thing, you got this idea, right? Like here's a huge area, here's a strip, we're just trying to create something that looks sort of realistic. And this is not bad. So this is what I really wanted to see, this kind of ripple through here. It kind of feels like there's a breakup between the clear texture and the rough texture. And honestly, I would say this is pretty close. There's certainly a lot of other stuff you could do, but for the most part, I feel pretty good about this. I'm just gonna look at this other texture. So this is the reflective. So maybe I want to go a little bit more. See how subtle it is? Now this is the reflective part, and this is the less reflective part, but I mean, that's all it takes is that much of a change in the roughness to get that variation there. And the rest of it's just personal preference. So I feel pretty good about that. And we'll have the before and after from the previous render, but what we're looking at is here was the one that we did before. So you can see the bus was pretty clear. Now we added this sort of transparent area, so people can actually see what's underneath the water, which is going to be critical. And now we've got a bit of a breakup of the reflection, bit of a breakup of the bus. I feel pretty good about that. Just dropping into a couple of the chats just to see if there's any comments or anything I got to just respond to. I think we're good on Twitch. See what's going on Twitter. I don't think people can comment on Twitter, to be honest. Let me just see. Does Twitter let you comment on this? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm just looking at it now. I go in, like, yesterday's stream, there was quite a few people that were like doing the like little hearts on it. But I mean, I don't know. It's not exactly the best setup. But either way, it's working. Okay, so I think I'm happy with the water. I think that there's a few other things that I would do, but I want to kind of get this looking, because what happens is anything I do in this scene has to come over to the other version, the night version, we'll call it, or the meme version. And I obviously don't want to change anything once we go. So if I go into the meme version, I start working, then I come back to this version, I'm like, hey, I want to move this bobber. You got to move it in both, or else the transition between the two is going to be off. So you want to lock this in as much as possible, but sometimes it's not clear to me what details we might want in the second version. So we don't want to go too crazy with adding details to these scenes until I kind of see how the actual meme card version works, which is the meme version is really the one that matters. So I'm going to just save this, and I'm going to experiment with something, because the last time I did this, I created two files and I duplicated it, and it caused a lot of issues. And I'm actually kind of curious whether I can do this as two scenes in Blender. So Blender kind of works in, like, the Blender file has a scene, usually a default scene, and most of the time you never change that, so you just have one scene per file. There's also something called view layers in Blender, which is basically you can turn on and off different objects in the scene, and the different objects in the scene will live on a view layer. And if you like Photoshop, if you hide one layer and show the other and render it, you get one version, and if you render the other render layer, you get different things. So what people use the render layers for is for compositing. So for example, if I wanted to make this scene and I want to make one render layer the water, one render layer the midground, one render layer the cactus, and one render layer the cathedral in the background, or even go further, one for the balloons and one for the back. So these are like 6 render layers. You could render out all 6, and then because they're in front of each other, they're stacked, you can then composite, start with the background, then add this, 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 and now you've got a scene. And the reason why people do that is because you can then control those. So you could adjust the lighting and the exposure. You could color grade them differently. You could add like a haze or a noise to the background. And especially if you're rendering an animation, this can be really critical, because, like, if I want to render this scene and it was animated, it might take 20 minutes to render each frame. So if you're trying to render a 5-minute video, 20 minutes, times 30, let's say, frames a second times 5 minutes is a huge long time to render. So if you render them in the individual composites, they're quicker and you have more control. You can do things like eliminate this haze that I already have and bring it in post. That's the basic explanation. I don't need to do that, but what I want to see is if I can create 2 scenes, and I want to see if I can link certain parts. So for example, I want the background to take, let's say like Cathedral Rock, I want it to stay the same. And if I move it in one, it'd be cool if it moved in the other. So I'm going to give this a quick try. And if it doesn't work, I'm going to go back to my old method, which is duplicating this. I'm just moving some of these around. So we've got a bit more organizing. This is the armature of the actual guy that's fishing. Cactus, balloon, underwater, terrain, rocks. Okay, so we've got this file. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do with too many file names. What I typically do is I try to save one file per day. This was my to-do list today, but I'm going to say fix water textures. And then that way I have a kind of a version control. And I hate to do this, but I'm going to go A for this one. Well, actually, I'll say this to B, and I'll call this multi-scene. So just to see if it's possible. And then I'm actually going to take a quick break here in a second. Actually, let me do that now. I'll take a quick break now, and then I'll come back and work on this scene. And then we should be going for, it should be a long stream today, so it should be about 4 hours. So let me double check this. Okay, it's cool. I'm just looking at some stats. So I can interestingly see stats on YouTube and Twitch and my Facebook. Yeah, super cool. Definitely reasonable. I would like to fix the bandwidth and all this stuff, but yeah, let me go out here for a second, and we'll be right back in probably less than 5 minutes. All right, we're back. Let's see. There we go. Hopefully this is okay. Okay, so we're just going into looking in the best way to connect two variations of the same scene. I'm going to just do a quick two variations, same scene blender. Just want to see if there's anything out there that people have done. Multiple scene sets. Let me just see what this says. Use Blender. Okay. Interesting. Okay, that's super cool. I wonder if that actually will work. So this is interesting. So this could be impossible on your computer if you don't have your scene optimized. But basically, what they're saying here is, I'm looking at essentially that idea. It's like, could I have both the day scene and the night scene rendered on the same Blender file, and essentially see them side by side, so I can be editing, kind of both and see their render. I mean, it technically could work. I've got a pretty beefy GPU. I'm using half of its VRAM right now and not too much memory, but the scene is not very well optimized because it doesn't need to be. But yeah, let me just see. I'm curious. So we already have this file saved. Our 1.3.4 regular is saved, so that will be the proper backup. We're going to duplicate this, and I want to see. Interesting. Link in the collections from the current scene versus a full copy. Copy settings. Oh, that's not what I wanted. I wonder if that's going to break. I just wanted to see. I thought that was the like copying the settings. Let's see what happens to the link copy. I'm kind of curious. Okay. This is still going. It might be. I don't know what happened. There we go. Okay. So we're going to just do a little experiment here, right? So I think what's happened is this is the original scene. It's going to take a bit to load. Okay, and we're going to call this one, day vintage. Okay, so this is the day scene. Then we're going to do is we're going to flip down to this scene. We're going to call this night meme, and it's going to load. Now, what you're going to see, this may get too complicated, but essentially we've got two copies of the scene now. And the question is, like, can I change on one side potentially and then show, the other scene on the other? So the setting that they were saying on here is under interface display. So let's just turn it on and see what happens. Interface display. I mean, they also sometimes, they could have got rid of this too, right? That's another thing. So they had this in under interface, global scene. File user preferences, interface display. All right. Interface display. So it looks like it's not there. That's could have just been redone. Okay, but either way, what I want to see is what happens here. Like, for example, if I change the world, which is right now on this HDRI. So what I'm going to check is, got to think through this. So I think I think that this would mean that both scenes are using the same. So let's say world day. Okay, so now see how two users, which makes sense because typically a world shader is only used by one because it's for the whole world of your scene. So if I hit this to make unique copy, and I call this world night, here's the task. Right? If I go into the HDRI and I'm going to find something that's more conducive to a night scene. So I'm going to go in here. We're going to go assets, and I have all my HDRIs together. So what I'm doing is I'm just changing the background lighting. So for example, trying to think what I have that is kind of night related. These things are, this is like a bug usually within Windows, which is any of these files, these HDR files that are over 4K, they don't show up. So my 8K files are not showing here. But let's say something like this, right? This is, maybe here. This looks like moonlit, and this, let's go with this one. Okay, so this is moonlit, and you can see the background changed. And I'll adjust this. And I'm also going to change the mapping. Okay, so this is what's basically connected. I'm going to just rotate this and just see until I get something. So there's that. This is the moon. So for example, for the moon, maybe we want it to be shining from this side of the scene. Just kind of experiment. Or if we want to keep things consistent, we could bring the moon all the way around until we get to this side of the scene. All right, so that moonlight's coming in from the right hand side. Let's go with this side of the scene. So we're just going to bring it over here and have kind of the moon off to the left. I think that kind of looks pretty reasonable. Okay, so let's go with this. So now the question is, what happens when we switch the scenes? So let's go switch to day. I mean, so far good. Okay. Okay, so our day scene is back. So this is I think ideally what we want because it means we can adjust things across both scenes. Total different than what I did last time. It could be pretty rough on the computer, and it might affect the stream a little bit, but we'll see how it goes. I'm just switching over to my dashboard. It's really, really cool to see the streams actually running all the platforms. And then I don't think that the chat stuff, I think the chat's working. Oh, wrong with the audio. Resolve Shark. Thank you. I don't know. Okay. Is the Resolve Shark, if you're watching now, is the audio good now? I guess it's just part of my setup. Maybe I just need to have, maybe I'm missing having a chat. Give me a second. Custom browser docs. I'm just looking for let me just go back to the stream. Just see if man. Definitely there's a bunch of things I need to be looking for where that stream manager was. So I'm streaming, testing. I don't know if that's going to come up. Okay, so there's the stream. It's streaming across all. I'm just going to go look at YouTube. At resolve. I guess you can't tag people on. Is it working now? Hopefully it's okay. I'm just going to listen. I'll just listen on YouTube really quick. I'll do it on my phone. I'll just mute this and just to see if the audio is actually back and working okay. Your channel. Give me a second. It's just going to go on mute. It's weird. I can't even get this to load on it's working on desktop, but I can't get it to load at all on my phone, which is odd. Okay, let me just mute this on, and I'll quickly play it on my computer, hopefully with this muted so that it doesn't cause any interference. Okay, it sounded great when I went in. I apologize if maybe there was an issue on YouTube. It sounded fine, so I hope it's okay. Thanks for the comment, though. If you hopefully comment back on YouTube and let me know if it is working now, I would appreciate it. I gotta say, I'm still trying to kind of get this, and let me know if it dialed in here. In terms of how all the chats and everything work. So apologize if I mess it up. I was just looking to see if I could get a chat window running on OBS so I can like absolutely see the chat. I don't see an option, but give me a second. File, tools. I think it has to be, let me try one quick thing. Because I know I have the chat is running. So if I grab the URL, if I put that in as a new doc, so you won't be able to see what I'm doing right now. Just my stream track. No. Oh well. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's kind of a, maybe it's just a multi-stream thing, but I wanted to have something on the screen for quick and easy chat. But I'm using Restream to do this, and you know, they have a chat window. It's just like in the browser, and I wanted to be able to get it. I wanted to be able to get it directly. Interesting. Okay, I can. Oh, this is interesting. So I can respond. It's interesting. It seemed to respond as my YouTube account, which I guess goes into YouTube. Oh, that's cool. Okay, well, at least I know that this is the chat window. I can use this in the future. It'd be nice if I could actually. It'd be nice if I actually get this up and running in OBS, but that's all good. Okay, let's get back to this. So what I was doing here before we went is I was just experimenting with the two scenes. So I've confirmed that if I switch over to the night scene, it does take a second to reload, but it is pulling in the new background image, which is set up here, which is nice because now I can have them sort of linked without having to change anything. So the next experiment I just want to quickly check is, can I turn off the sun, right? So the sun here is what's causing that lighting. So if I want the scene to be lit for night, what I would want to do is probably, I mean, I could have it off, but what I would want to do is I'd probably want to duplicate. Just let me think about this for a second. So I guess this is like an experiment. I'm just trying to think of whether I could adjust the sun here and it would essentially only affect this one, or whether it would affect both scenes. So let's do a little test. Okay, so this is going to be sun day, or maybe it's just sun, right? Because we're going to simulate the moon. We'll go moon. So obviously in this version, if we turn off the sun and we go to the moon, and what we want to do is yeah, so for this, I kind of want to add it a little bit more blue, and I probably want to bring down the irradiance, and then what we're going to do is on this side, we're just going to go up to the top view, and if you look at the sun, which is now the moon, where is it on our scene? Currently for the sun, it was coming across here, so it's 90-degree angle. It was hitting the side. But for the moon, we want it to match the HDRI. So we want it on this side. And you can see the difference, right? So, moon off, moon on makes a huge difference because we got a bit of moonlight now on the bus, but we also really have the lighting on this side of the mountain range, which is what we want. Cool. This gives us a little bit of a change. And now I'm just, for my own curiosity, just going to bring this back to the day and see what this looks like. So on the day side, we now have the moon. So I'm going to turn that off. I'm just trying to think through this. Okay, so the sun is on the moon side. It is off on this side. This could get a little messy, but let's see now if we switch the moon side. The moon is on, the sun is off. Okay. I'm a little hesitant on whether or not this is the right way to do it. See what it did. It didn't fully save it. It's somehow switching. It's oddly switching. Yeah, it's weirdly switching. I don't know why it's doing that. It's switching the what's visible and what's not in the scene, which is a little bit odd. It was weird because it's working beautifully with the world between the two, right? That's perfect. But the moon looks great here and the sun's off. But when I switch the day, it's just oddly doing this, which I really want this off and this on. Save this. I don't know why that's doing that. Maybe it was just something I did wrong that last time. So night should have the moon on and the sun off. So they see it switched it back. That's too bad. I'm sure there's something I'm doing wrong, but I don't know if this is going to end up causing me a headache. Because there's also the idea of a view layer, which could be possible. But the problem with the view layer, from what I remember, is that you can't change the world background. So you end up like double switching it every time, which is super annoying. Like, I feel like this is what I want. It's just, I don't know what's exactly causing that. I think I'm going to go forward, and then I can always sort of go do some research and come back. I just have to be careful with what's rendered. Okay, so for the night mode, this is great already. We've got a bit of a moon here in this, and what we just can do now is we can dial this in a little bit. So just to give you an example, if I bring the moonlight down, we get a little bit less reflection here, which is nice. We go up, we also get more reflection on the background, but really this should be subtle because we don't want to have, anything too crazy. And then on the world, we can also adjust the world. So if I turn the world off, all you get is that moonlight. And if I bring it to 1, you get this. And if we bring it down to here, you get something kind of subtle. We also can adjust the rotation. So minus 45. It's going to bring it further that way, which I think is probably good. Now we got some stars going on, which is kind of nice. I've got some Milky Way photos that I might bring in. I prefer not to do that. So there's like a technique in Blender where you can bring an image, behind the camera, and it acts as a sky. It works and it does look really good for the most part, but it causes, it's like you have to set it up properly so it's not affecting the lighting, and it sort of gets a little messy. I prefer not to do it if I can, but we're gonna see. We're gonna see if whether this is actually gonna work or not. So far, it's not bad. It's just a little bit. I don't know how these stars are gonna look. So, but I think we're getting close. Okay, so I like this. I like how the moonlight's bouncing off of here. I like what's going on in the background. Now what we want to do is a couple things. So we want to swap the bus out. This is going to be interesting to see if we can do this. So if we go into camping, I don't think I brought it in. So this is the bus. Okay. So we're going to go into the VW bus and we're going to disable it. So it's gone. And I know I have the actual bus, the meme bus, in a file. And I just don't remember where I put it. I want to say I put it into the open roads. No. Also could have put it in assets under models. Okay, let's do this. Let's save this. Let's go. Let's see. Before I start bringing stuff in, let's go find it because I do know I had that file. It's going to be somewhere in my recent. Yeah, see, meme bus v3 projects. Okay, there we go. Just bad memory. I created a new project. Yeah, specifically for this meme bus. Okay. Collection. Meme bus. Hopefully this works. Okay, so it's going to import in the bus. We're just going to grab it. Let's see where it went. Yeah, here. We're going to bring it into camping. And we have the VW bus and the meme bus. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm going to bring this one back. And I have to line up this meme bus to be exactly where the other one is. So this is the bus here, and I have this controller. And with any luck, I should be able to grab the controller of this one. So I believe when I set this up, they were right. They were basically aligned. Okay, so we're going to bring the 3D cursor to selected. So now the 3D cursor is in the middle of this circle, which is controlling the old Volkswagen bus. And if I go into the meme bus, go back to it and grab the circle, and I move the circle to the cursor. I mean, fingers crossed. Oh, there's a fill. So it's here, but I didn't. And maybe I can even, let me just see. Maybe if I grab this and I see it's 11.7, and it's 25. So I must have messed the scale up. That's okay. I can get it. I can get it pretty close. So all I'm trying to do here is just bring the meme bus, which is this guy, to be as close to the original as I can. And obviously the key is just that you don't want the camera to jump, right? So you can see this is the one below. Scale is a little bit off. There's a much better way to do this, I'm sure. I mean, ideally you would want this to be exact. Actually, maybe I'll do it this way. So these are the two beams. So let's look at the actual size of these in the rotation and see how close we can get them. So really, as long as these two things are lined up, it should work. So their scale is 11.7. That's not going to work. I was hoping for an actual. I don't even think the rotation is going to work. This is the VW. Well, we can try it. Let's go. Let's just copy. I know there's a way to just link the same data, but this is a little bit easier for me right now. So I'm just copying the rotation settings from one to the other. Okay, so it did a pretty good job. The scale may be off slightly, but we're pretty close. So again, I'm looking for this is the VW. This is the meme. And let's just scale. Just looking at whether the scale is, yeah, I guess it's not perfect. So, we're going to just have to do it manually. It's one of these tricky things because you see every little aspect here from the rotation of the front and the back, the rotation of the side. You're dealing with multiple axes and you're trying to you're trying to line up every aspect of it. So if you look at this is probably a good indication. So if you look at the size of this, they need to be the same. So, at least the scale is pretty good because you can see this lines up pretty close. Now you have this side problem, right? So it's a question of the rotation. So rotate, out a little bit. Yeah. This might be an off-stream deal, to get this exactly right. And again, there's probably a much better process. But I think that, for what we're doing right now, this is going to be pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and hide the camper. And now we've got the bus, which is cool. Okay, so we take a look at the bus. What happened to our guy? Oh, a camper. He comes back. We want to get rid of the bus and bring our camper back. There we go. Okay. So now you look at the bus. We've got some good stuff happening, right? We've got the scene in. This is the art on the top. There's some stuff going on with the bottom, which we can fix. The license plate showing. The front looks good. We don't see the characters in here. But I think from a story standpoint, the way that, this probably never see the light of day unless people are watching the stream. But from a story standpoint, there's a couple things that I've been thinking about. One would be that this is like a later continuation of it. So, for example, this original scene with the heist of all the art in the bus, this is later on. So now this guy is now going to be fishing. It's going to be a Pepe fishing for the newer art that's available. So the actual top will be the art that he already has, and maybe what I'll do is I'll put some of the art kind of like leaning against the bus and just sort of sitting on the side. I think the me bit is maybe chilling, just sitting on the top. Should be kind of cool. So maybe the me bit's just sitting on the top of the rail. This side is going to be a tulip, which is was a mistake the first time I did it, but we're going to fix the texturing here. And this door in particular is wrong. So we're going to refix the texturing. I think the PFPs can be in here. I sort of adjust them to bring them over to this side. And then the lighting isn't going to need to be fixed. And in cycles, some of this emission looks weird, but once you bring in the compositor and you add some bloom, it tends to look a little bit more natural. So let's do the me bit first, because I think this will be kind of a fun one. So this is the same armature thing that we did before. So let's do the me bit. It's kind of should be a pretty straightforward change. So basically trying to get him in the right position. I'm going to have him sitting right here on the side. Okay. So we're just going to line up. Just going to line it up reasonably good. And then we'll bring it down. Okay. So now we're going to go into pose. Now we can actually affect the individual armature. So to do this, so we have to see. I think I'm going to isolate it for a second. Oh, can't do that. Looking for where this dude is. I guess we can't hide it. What we can just do is we can hide the bus. Sorry, I'm not really sure why. Oh, that's weird. That's weird. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, fair enough. Um, yeah. Okay. Well, I'll fix it up after. But I think I just get the basic setting right here before I actually line it up with the bus. So with this armature, what we're trying to do is basically have him sitting. So if you look at this, yeah, if you look at this, really what we just want is bring this up, and then this is the knee. So that does a rotation of the knee. Rotation doesn't do anything. So I think that generally, like, the way armature works is it's deforming the mesh. Um, so there's certain things they're kind of hard to avoid, right? Like if he's sitting on the side and you bring his leg up further than this, it's going to clip his body, right? It's just like it's just a block. So it's not actually going to be perfect. But as long as you sort of are reasonable about the movement of where this guy is, it'll end up being not too bad. So he's kind of on an angle here, but yeah. So something like this is fairly good for sitting. And then what we can do is you can rotate, this the hips. We can rotate the whole body to kind of be sitting back a little bit. Okay. We can get the head, and this is the neck. So I think if you rotate the head is going to be the right way to do this. Rotate Y. Yep. So there we go. So there's the me bit. He's kind of facing, have him facing whichever way we want, but basically have him lined up. And I think the neck should be, yeah, the neck should be good. In terms of hands, we're just going to kind of bring them down so you can see the stretching, right? So see like where these actually want to stretch. So we're just going to try to bring it, I think, to like a natural position, and then I can just start to rotate things and just try to make it look as I don't know, what is this? Oh, these are the arms. These are the shoulders, right? So the shoulders there, and then you just kind of see the effect. So this is twisting the shoulders in and out. If I bring it up and down, same thing. Just want the shoulders to look. Yeah, I'm just looking to see if there's, where did the hands go? The hands? Yeah. Just think if he's sitting on the edge. I almost would like want his hands crossed. I don't know how realistic that's going to be because there's no elbow joint here, right? So if you have an elbow joint, you could twist that and they would actually kind of naturally go, but they don't have, there's no in this. And I'm not character artist, so me trying to kind of rig this and add elbow joints and all that's not happening. We'll just make this look as natural as we can once we get in here. Well, I really would wonder. I don't think I'm doing anything with that armature. I don't think I'm doing it with that armature that would cause it to deform like that. I think it's just a product of, this is a pretty simple character, right? It's just blocks. So if you turn the arms, it's gonna do this. I think no matter what. Do we just lose our post? Oh man, it's so funny. I talked about this in like one of my last streams. How freaking funny that is. I don't think there's any way to fix that now. Oh yeah, okay. So what's happening is this guy's animated. So basically at this point, I want to grab all this and just hit I. And I think that should just lock him in. Yeah, there we go. It's just like you can quickly lose your posing because there's an animation playing and yeah, you're going to keyframe these things. Okay, so I don't think there's anything in particular that I could do to solve any of these sort of stretching issues. I just have to try to not, like basically the less you deform the arms, the better it's going to be because there's no joints and you're not going to really see them. I think this is not bad, right? So he's kind of sitting on here. We can see if we can stretch him back a little bit. So kind of make sure he's sitting properly. Okay, so let's bring back the bus and then see how this looks. So bring back the bus, not the bus. It's not right. Yeah, the bus. And then the bus body. Okay, so now we can kind of bring him down. The other option, I'm just thinking about this. The other option could be, is he going to just look ridiculous sitting up here? His scale looks wrong even though it's right. The other option I could do is I could have him laying kind of like, doing the kind of the option A, option B, just because I think him sitting on here, just looking at it, it looks off in my mind from here. It's not too bad, but maybe it's just his tilt. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. I think it's worth it just to kind of get it, get it in, and then obviously can fine tune it later. I think his hands look ridiculous. We're probably going to bring them all the way back to his side, in. This one's a little better. In. Got to be out enough to see it. Okay. That's not bad, right? Easy's there. Okay, cool. Okay, now from an art standpoint, there's going to be, I think, worth getting, like, okay, well, hold on. Before I do that, let me just show you something with the me bit. So the me bit, texture-wise, for some reason, I don't know why this was happening before. Using this texture just felt like it wasn't getting enough light. Maybe it's just, go see what the deal is. Let's go into the shader. This is like his. This is the mesh. Yeah, maybe. Okay, so this is the base color. This is the alpha. This is the normal. Roughness and specular are up. Let me just see what happens if I get rid of the normal. A little better. I think it might be that. It might just be the stupid normal map might have been doing some weird stuff because the lighting is, I think the lighting was just sort of not great. Well, I was going to say is like, I think in my original one, I actually ended up adding a mission. I think I added a mission to him because, or him or her, because he really did bring it out, but I don't think that's what we want. Yeah, we don't want the emission. All we have to do is kind of pick, like maybe he's got a light up there. I don't know what it would be, but something in the scene that would light him. Because if you just go into add a point light, wherever that went, play this with the point light. Yeah, if you add a point light in front of him, and you know, we can fake like this, right? So this just adds essentially what the sun is coming in. It's the same, basically the same idea. We're just sort of amplifying it. I mean, there's other ways I'm sure we can do this, but it just gets a little bit of the wherever that sun was coming in. And yeah, better way to do this actually would be, let's add, well, I could have just converted that. So we change this to an area light, and then we'll do it like a movie set. So we'll just change the rotation. We'll point this at him, side light him. Right. So that's the light, and then we can adjust how big this thing is. We can adjust the size, 0.15. You see, like there's 5,000, right? So 1,000. And we can decide what to do, but basically that's it. It's just like a little extra lighting for our buddy the me bit. And now this is where the question is: will this properly stay here on this scene versus the other scene? So I'm just going to go night, light, me bit. Potentially, so if I need to go through and search for this after, I'm going to be able to get it. I just saw something here. I'm wondering where that's coming from. I think it just came in from another file. Okay, cool. So the other thing here, like obviously the bus is pretty bright, but we can adjust that after. I need to fix the texturing. I'm just going to do something quickly with the art. So, okay, so this is our scene again. Let's go back to this mode. And if you look at the art in the roof, there's certain art that was visible when the camera was up above in the other scene, but not visible here. So it feels like the right thing to do here would be just to bring this stuff down. And I think just kind of like having it sitting beside, I don't actually know which piece this is. Oh, there we go. It's the max paint. So let's go, we'll put it kind of like it's sitting, like leaned up against it. So it's touching, and it's not perfect, but sort of make it so it looks reasonable. Brain is a little bit broken in terms of where the orientation of this is, but the key is it's just not Yeah, maybe it's got to be leaning against this tire. Yeah, that's good for now. Actually, it needs to be on the ground, so in this case, the bus is floating. Um, that's the way it was in the other scene, so that it does a nice transition. Um, I still think it can make sense. Okay, let's go with this. Just go with this for now. Okay, so there's one. Other art that is up here is these are okay. If anything, I can just kind of move this down a bit and have that there. This one is okay. It's sitting. Can't tell what these are at this point. This one back here is we brought down. That's Summer JPEG. That's a cool one. Obviously, I can take as much time as I want to lay these out. But the idea is, that they're just sort of, they're just kind of chilling on the ground here. It doesn't. Just for now. I'm gonna obviously pile them up and stuff, and there's different ways to do it. Let's see what else is up here. That's I guess the Nakamoto big rare. This one I think might be free Hawaii. Let's get this one down. Try to keep the same scale as they had. Obviously, the thing is they need to be hitting the ground. So, we'll maybe we'll do something here, like we'll put some type of like a luggage box or something. Um, I think that would kind of help. So basically, if we had, sitting in front of the bus, something like this, it might be some luggage. So this is part of the reason why I was saying in the last scene, like I wanted to put some vintage luggage on this, but I didn't really know where it was going to be, and I didn't know how it would look. So the nice part of not doing that at that moment was that now, as you know, you're working on the meme card. That's not. No, that's why. Yeah. So if you imagine like a piece of luggage, and you can kind of figure it out, briefcase or something, and then that's sitting in front, maybe here, closer. So if it's kind of sitting, beside the bus when it's on the ground, with the one with the wheels would be like this. Um, then you can kind of see this art. Kind of making sense. See, just kind of like piled up and leaning against it. So we don't want to go too crazy with this just because we're going to adjust it all after. Maybe the max. Right? It'll make sense once it starts to go through. Um, okay, so there's one here that see it looks like it's missing a texture. So let's bring this down and let's figure that out. So whichever one it is, we can have it kind of leaning in here. Touching the ground. Okay, cool. So this one is, yeah, it's a Fidenza. So we can just go and find that file. Um, it should be in source, and it should be this one. There we go. Cool. I like it. Um, there's a few more up there. This one looks a little off to me. I just think like a combination of them in both would be great. So if this was just sort of sitting here like this, it's not too bad. That, and then, maybe I'd like to ideally have them all visible. I can't tell what this is. Ferocious. Okay. There we go. Still don't like this one here. Um, this one also is not doing anything. So let's see. I don't want to change the sizes of them because I want to stay true. I really want to stay true to the original. Just don't know if this is sort of leaning against this. Does it stand out enough? Maybe we can do is replace this one. Right, because this is a bigger piece. Something like that. Why that one's not showing up? Oh, it's there. It's kind of makes sense. Okay, it's just sort of sitting in the corner. That looks a little bit off because of this beam, because it's over top of that beam. Well, either way, right? It will adjust this after the fact. This is the basic idea to stage the scene. So, okay, we've got that. I want to experiment with some lighting inside the bus because I want to see how well it counters this. I think on the bus, I added some glass material, and one of the things with the glass material is, changing a bunch of these settings, emission, transmission. Yeah, like changing some of these settings may end up getting us something that is a little bit less of picking up the reflection there of the light. Yeah, so you can see, right? Again, reality versus, I guess the art. Let me just do a little check through the chats there. This should be fine for Facebook. How do I get those analytics again? Live chat. This is there. Twitter. Looks like it's working, but no chat coming through. It's too bad. Okay. Um, what were we doing? Yeah, so I was changing the IOR, right? It's reality of like IOR of glass is like 1.3 something. So you get that crazy reflection. But if you go down to like 1.1, you get a little bit more of the inside. So we can play with this a little bit. I want to definitely do something with the lighting inside. Um, so let's just bring this up. So a couple things. I don't want to have, I don't know if I want to have all the PFPs rocking in here or not, but I'm going to just move a couple of them around to see how it looks. So this is the art. These are the PFPs. This one in particular is important. So if I rotate this and bring it a little closer to the window, um, yeah, it's interesting. Just definitely. So these are doing emission because these are just planes. But what I'm thinking is I want I definitely want this glass maybe tinted. We'll do it. Yeah, I think some tint will help, just to sort of make it a little bit um, less clear. And then again 1.3 is the IOR. 1.2, something like that would be interesting. I'll tweak these, but let's bring a couple more forward and just see how they look. Um, so let's go bus. Let's go to the driver. Let's see what we can do with the driver. We're gonna have an interesting. Definitely like how the blurriness is sort of coming into play. Yeah, that looks good. Um, let's see who is in the next seat back. Is it this guy? So, it's okay. So that's the crypto. If you don't know anything about Web3 and NFT stuff, you're like, what the heck is going on right now? So we're just going to switch these to these sides of these windows. And you can kind of see this coming through. I think the subtlety here is it's nice. Yeah, and again, we can adjust. This is also not that many render passes, so we're gonna be able to adjust this quite a bit. Wonder where the actual, it's weird, where the actual, yeah, it's this part here that needs to go in. Okay, so this is where that this is where I think the glass is. So if we look on the left, this is where if we go down to 1, yeah, we get full transparency, right? 1.2 does this, 1.15. That's probably pretty good. It's once we go through this process, I think it'll look right. Okay, so back to the PFPs. I don't know what that cube was for. This is the grifter was in the back. The driver was here. There was a noun here, and I think there is a board ape here. Yeah, so we'll go back. Rotate this here. Good. I think the next one was a noun. Toad here. I think the noun was cool. Bring it back on the side. Rotate it. Make sure it's just outside the window. Solid. And then what else do we have? Do we have something in the far back? This toad was here. Punk the noun, driver the grifter. I think probably the toad will probably do the trick. I don't know if there's been anything recent since then. These things have kind of obviously just been, oh, no, we're going to do this. He's going over here somewhere. He's going on like a lily pad or something. So let's get, what other one did we have? We had the grifter. Excuse me. Again, a little bit quicker on the mute button. Okay, cool. So we've got the PFPs hanging in here. I'm just laughing because I know these fucking MFers. I know these MFers are gonna love the fact that this dude's in here. Still, this. I probably should hotbox this thing, right? I think I probably have to get intellectual property permission from Punk6529 that he's okay with me hotboxing the inside of this van. It'd be kind of funny. This MFR, I think this is a smoking MFR. I'm pretty confident. It's called MF Driver for all you MFers. I literally called it that. Yeah, I think they're gonna appreciate that. Okay, cool. I think this is good. We'll see how this looks when it renders. Okay, let's fix the side. So this is going to be interesting because I don't know what happened to this door. Um, Basically this, okay, so let's see what's going on with the textures here. So actually, what is it? I need to get a coffee. Yeah, let me grab a quick coffee and I'll come back. What we're going to do is we're going to fix the texture on this side because on this side it was using a Fidenza, but I hadn't decided whether I want to use a different texture, keep it the same. I may end up using the tulip. I actually may find another place to put it. So yeah, we'll do that. And then I also let me just do one thing first. So there was a light. Um, what I wanted to do, I want to put a light in here just to see. So I'll just bring my cursor there, and I'm just want to curious, like if I do like kind of like a neon light, what it does to the interior of this. Yeah, I think it does. I think it's pretty good. It doesn't really affects a little bit of the texturing. But for example, like this guy, does this guy have permission? He does. So it's pretty bright, I guess, because it's the only one that's getting. It's the only one that would be getting the light. Oh no, it's the same. It's really hard to see what this is doing. Definitely in here, lighting up the scene. It's just the question is, how much do we want? I think this would probably do the trick. Just to have like kind of like an interior neon light going. It was probably pretty good. There we go. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so that's where we are right now. There's a bunch of stuff still to do, but I'm going to just take a quick 5 minute break, grab a coffee, and I will be right back. Should be back now. I was just experimenting with the chat. I don't know. I think this might actually work. Get rid of this follower goal. Yeah, so I've got kind of this chat coming in. I don't know. I don't actually know whether this will work, but basically, yeah, what it should do is it should disappear now. It should only show up for 60 seconds. So if I just test this with the chat, I'll just do one from GM. So yeah, so there should be a chat. Yeah, the chat should pop. Oh, it's coming up at the top. That's interesting. I wanted it to come in from the bottom. Let me just quickly see if I can fix that. Chat overlay. Let's go bottom and see if that works. It's the joy of figuring these things out on the fly. It's going. Yeah, I just don't quite know. Just don't quite know. Bottom. Okay, it looks good. I mean, I don't know if it's gonna, it might just be the next chat that comes in. So I'll do a test from YouTube, GM. Something came in. But yeah, it might be, yeah, it's all good. I just wanted to kind of have that screen not showing unless there was a chat. Okay, back to the project. So where we last left off is that we were working on this bus, in particular this texture on the side. So the goal is let's get this texture to match this one, and then we can decide which texture to do. So it's just now going to go in to see what's going on here. So I go into here and I look at these are the textures. Okay, so that's that. That's probably the one. So if I just deselect everything, select this, I think that's the texture. So this is, yeah, the Fidenza. It's got a color ramp into the roughness, and the base color is this blue. Cool. Okay, I mean, I should be able to match this. So this one is the paint gloss. So now I just need to deselect everything and just find, it's this one here. So it's paint, and then deselect, go back and see if we can change this to the gloss. There we go. Only thing that looks wrong is the UVs. So we're going to go over here and go to the UV editor. We're going to change this to the Fidenza. And we're going to try to get a feel for what's going on. So this is the unwrapping. So really what I want here is either I basically want these to use the same UV. So just for fun. So if I change this to generated, yeah, that's not what I want. So this is actually okay. This is unwrapped. What I want to do is unwrap this one with the other one. I don't know if there's a way to do that. I think it is. Let's just see what happens. Just save that. That. Ready to go. So I just did is I combined those two objects together, selected them both, and then unwrapped them together. It may not be perfect because looks like there's a seam there, but pretty good. Okay, so now you can change the texture. So if I wanted to change this to, let's go take a look. 6529 tulip. I don't know yet whether I'm going to actually. So this is the one. So it's Fidenza 113, the tulip, sold for 1,000 ETH, 3.3 million. I just wonder if. Okay, so it's tulip Fidenza 313. I'm sure there's going to be all sorts of duplicates of this. Fidenza. So it's these. This is the collection. You can buy one of these if you're interested for 72 ETH. What I'm looking for is the number. So it is 313. There it is. So I'd have to remember which ones the other ones were. But for now, let's grab it. Assets. Sorry, active projects. Cathedral. We should do this in the meme bus. And we should get the textures. We should get the textures out into here at some point, so we have them all together. Looking for the proper link. There it is. Yeah, hold on. Active projects. Let's just put it in here for now. Working, Blender, meme card, textures, and we're going to call this one Fidenza 313 tulip. Yeah, I want this in here somewhere. I won't go into like the reasons why, but I missed it the first time, and it's a pretty iconic piece. And yeah, I want to have it in here. The question is, do I want it to be the texture on here or not? Because this one in particular, so if you look at the texture of this, I don't know why it's not. I don't know why it's not showing the actual texture. Oh, because it's packed. I guess this one. So this is the texture that's currently projected. Yeah, this is the one that's currently projected on the side right now. So a bit of a purist when it comes to this stuff. But if we take a look at the bus, this is pretty cool. If we take a look at the bus, this is the texture that wraps around. So you either would want to have a separate texture on this side and then maybe something different here. Because on the front, it actually is kind of cool. Because there's like an obvious separation. And if you look at the texturing, I think this one, if I remember, one of these is, yeah, this one here is the Fidenza 2, which I should have named these a little better, but we'll learn. Okay, so this is Fidenza 2. Okay, so the roof is this, the side is this, and we can experiment with what it looks like with the other one. Let me just take a peek at this because I'm thinking also, where else would it be? Where else could it be on the bus? I have an idea. So this is kind of fun. Okay. I think I might keep this because this was the texture on the bus before. And even though, it wraps around nicely, it makes sense. Like, why would you have two textures on the paint job of a vehicle, right? So we got this one, nice one here, this one here. It would be kind of seem like cheating to just like switch it to this side. But I kept thinking about, I don't know why it popped in my head. I kept thinking about Pulp Fiction, with the suitcase, when he's like looking in the suitcase and you just like see the glow and you don't know what it is. I kind of like this idea. And again, maybe this will be an Easter egg in the stream, right? Whereas if you don't watch the stream, you would never know this. But this is what this is right here, right? This is like just the floating CryptoPunk. But I have an idea. So I'm going to bring this in here. Okay. So I'm going to bring in a little, and I'm going to bring in the tulip as an image as a plane. Okay. And I'm going to go into here and I'm going to grab the tulip. And you can see that it's in here. And I'm going to bring it in. It's going to be really funny. It's going to be hard to get this right. I'm going to get into the bus so I can actually see. I can go to, it's a little bit harder to see. Okay. So, yeah. Okay. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to bring this up. I'm going to rotate it this way. Okay, so it's kind of in front of 6529 view. I'll bring it here. And I'm just going to keep it off camera so you won't be able to see it from the outside. But I'm going to go in and I'm going to hit the emission on it. So it's going to be pretty bright, and we're going to bring it up to something pretty, like 25 maybe, something pretty intense. And now I'm going to see, like, I don't know if I could probably get it with the camera angle, because if you think of the camera angle here, the camera is going up, so he would have to be tilted down quite a bit. But it's possible. Let's see if we can do it. So he was going to have to be back still in the front seat. The size is going to have to be up. I can't clip. And then we're going to have to rotate it to see the reflection. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to take, this is sort of a ridiculous idea, but what I want to do is I want to subdivide this thing. Okay. So I want to subdivide this plane. I needed to get it down to like maybe 20. Yeah, this probably will do it. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the texture and I'm going to I want to assign like mirrors to the classes. So I think I just do this, change it to punk, and then if I duplicate it, and now I may even be able to do it. I probably had to get rid of the color, right? So now we change this to black, we'll change the specular, and we'll change the metallic, and we'll change the roughness down to 0. We don't want any subsurface. I meant to do this. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I got to find, I don't know if there's going to be an easy way to do this. What I'm trying to do is, yeah, perfect. Okay. So what I'm doing is, this would be a good time to save, because I'm going to feel like I'm going to do something. Okay, so we're going to, is that we're going to grab these individual squares And I think we can do some overlap. I don't think it's going to hurt, but we'll see. There's other ways to do this. We could texture paint it, whatever. But this is the easiest, I think, method to just get this effect. And then what we're going to do is assign to this material. Okay, so this is going to run this material. So now, I don't know why that didn't work actually. Oh, it's probably because, let me think through this. So this material is here. This material is here. It might just be a matter of refreshing. Solid. No. Okay, why would that? So the material that should work, that material is assigned to this. So it should be taking on whatever property. Something's changing there. It doesn't seem to want to. Like if I change it to pink, oh, the roughness, like it's there, but it's not right. I wonder if it's to do with, hmm. Oh, okay. I know what it is. What it is. We might end up faking this a little bit. Okay. So basically this goes up. So the texture, this is this, and then if we invert this, okay, this is this one. So what's happening is the emission though is still popping up on the other one. So I think if I take that out, now we get the reflection, which is good. But the problem is I don't think we're going to get any detail. So what I might try, just to sort of, I mean, it's really a question of where the camera, it's a question of the camera and, the angle of this being, like, it'd be pretty hard to get it right. And I'm already seeing how big this is compared to what it was before. So I think we're going to fake it. If you look at 16529 kind of in here, I wonder what this is. What do you think that is? Let's go see. What is that? What is that? Like a double glass plane there? Is it like a double window deal? Like, now we get a double. Yeah, it's probably just from, it's like the slide, those like sliding windows in a Volkswagen. Um, oh yeah, it's 100% what it is. It's that sliding window, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which is a little bit annoying. Let's see. Maybe it'll look okay. Just question is where to put. Just a question like where to put this in the bus so that they feel like we somehow messed up the guess not. I really should knife this. I mean, yeah, another way to do this, which is easier. We'll just grab these textures or these faces, and then we can duplicate them. Right? So they're just a little bit out, and then we can scale them up, bring them back, so just so they're fully covering. Okay, so um, what I was trying to do here is, yeah, let's just get the spacing right. Just something feels really wrong about this. Did it stretch? No. Is it the rotation? Something looks wrong about it compared to where we had it before. Okay. Oh, that's not what I want to do. I also think I'm going to fix this. Um, easiest way to do this, grab these three, these, there should be four. Basically grab this, so should we grab this, and this. Well, it looks like it grabbed. So this is the window. Okay, so if we want to do it, we can bring both of these over. This is the overlapping window, so I'm just thinking I either can bring it all the way, but then it's going to be a double glass. It might not look. Let's try it with the double glass first. So there's two actual glasses here, right? So we grab this one, basically this, and this. So now we have the bottom of this one glass, and we go up top, and we grab this, 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 and this. Right. So now we have this edge of the glass, and then we basically just, if we can bring it along that plane, too optimistic. Could cause issues, but see. Double checking to see if this glass is aligned. I think it was on the outside of this one. Be like that. Yeah, so what happens here is that it is fine, except that that double glass causes that problem. And we can fix that, I guess, by just getting rid of that glass. So I think this is, yeah, so just basically get rid of this one. There we go. So we probably still might have a little bit of ridge there, but it doesn't look that bad. Okay, cool. Let's go back in and grab the character. Oh, it's weirdly, must have been why it was like that. I don't know how I did that, but okay. This is looking a little better. We don't want to be a floating head. Gotta have this part here. Probably rotate it. Okay. Okay, so let's say something like this, right? And now we go back into our material And we now have this one, which is the it's the glass. And what we can do is, instead of doing the glass, we can change this to the Fidenza tulip. Okay. And we can grab the color and bring it into the emission. And then what we can do is we can scale the UVs. Okay, so we want to make sure it's on UV, which it is. And then what we can do is we can go into these two pieces, which, I kind of did a pretty bad job, to be honest, of how I did this, but whatever. We can unwrap this. Let's go to UV editor. Unwrap these guys. It's not what we wanted. I don't know if we actually got them together or not. So what I want to do is I want them separate. So for example, this is the left side. And I need to make sure that we're actually, just got to make sure we're actually selecting these guys. It should be a separate object, to be honest, but yeah, that would actually make life a lot easier. So this one and this one. Shoot. Okay, so these is this, and I'll just separate this by the selection. And now this should be, go back here. I don't have it. This is going to be punk glasses. Okay. And then this one, what we can do is we'll call this punk glasses, and we'll get rid of this one here, and on this one we'll get rid of the punk glasses. So what should happen now is the punk should be just set up with the normal punk emission, and then the glasses should have the fidenzas. And if I open this up, you should see that each one of these is its own. And if I select them both and I unwrap them, they should be, they should be pretty good. I don't know why the size is different, but basically I think I want both to be the full, I want them both to be the full potenza. Hey, last breath. I don't know where, I'm not really sure where that message is, if it's on YouTube or somewhere else, but Jim, hello. Thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions on what I'm working on, feel free. I've kind of explained it so many times now, but yeah, I'll definitely get into whatever people want me to get into. Okay, so just to see how this looks, I'm going to grab both. Yeah, what is that? The voice is not clear. Oh man, that's such a shame. I don't know what that would be, because the voice sounds like it's coming in fine. How's that? Does that make it any better or worse? It's really annoying if there's an issue. Voice is not clear, right? How about now? Let me know. I'll try to bring back the chat. How about now? Any difference? Yeah, still struggling with getting all this to work. I truly, yeah, not clear. Okay, I'm just gonna mute for a second and just go listen to myself, because it was, when I checked it before, it was completely fine. Give me a second here, and I'll just let me just see what I want to do. I gotta just mute my microphone, and if it is working now, I would appreciate it. I gotta say, I'm still trying to kind of get this, and let me know if it dialed in here. in terms of how all the chats. Okay, I don't understand. You're the second person that said that, but it sounds perfectly clear on YouTube. Is that where you're watching? You're on, yeah, this is on YouTube. I don't know. I don't know what to do. I just played it. Is that where you're watching? You're on, yeah, this is on YouTube. There's going to be a bit of an echo there. I just turn off my, yeah, like I just played it live, well, on delay. Yeah, and I mean, it sounds perfect. It's so annoying. If this is like a thing people say to streamers, which is, it's actually kind of hilarious, to be honest. If it is. Normally I think it's funny because I've heard of this, people being like, hey, your voice is not clear on a stream, which puts people in a tailspin of trying to figure out, no, now the voice is clear. Okay. Thank you. I thought you were messing with me, honestly, because it was working. What is Flutter? I mean, I can teach you some Blender stuff. Obviously, I'll talk through what I'm doing. If you have specific questions, like, hit me. I don't mind doing a little detour for lessons, and if there's something that, a full lesson would be cool, I'll definitely do it. But at least right now, glad to hear the voice is clear. I'll just keep doing what I'm doing, and just if you have specific questions on Blender, hit me up, and I'm happy to answer it. Just bear with me a second as I kind of get myself oriented to where I was. Okay, I'm just so what I'm doing right now is so what I basically okay, so what I'm basically trying to do is I'm working on, this meme card, we call it, but basically it's a derivative of my 3D art. If you saw some of the previous streams or tuned in, I specialize in making 3D rendered landscapes from real world locations. So I made this scene, which is based in Sedona, Arizona. This is the original reference photos that I took of the mountain range, and this actual photo was taken by me in a puddle, just on top of a rock inside of in Sedona. And if you take a look at, you can't start creating, so I want to learn. Well, I'll tell you this. So last breath, so this is the location, just quickly, and then I'll show you, right? This is the location that this render is made from, and it's this sort of little puddle right on top of here. So this is the reference that I've used. And then if we go back into Blender, and here you can see this is the original 3D render I did sitting here at this location in Blender, and that's finished. Now I'm working on like a derivative. I'm calling it it's called a meme card. But here's for a little test. I'm going to save this, and I'm going to see if this works. So this is the night mode. This is the meme version that I'm working on at this moment here. But if I go over to the day version, it should take a second. It's going to render. Yeah, so I'm making so it's a derivative of a piece of art that I've already made. So if I go in here and show you, so I'm a 3D artist, and I release most of my work on Web3 as NFTs. So this is the one that I made right here. Right, so here's Cathedral. This is the piece that I currently, have already created, and it's already up for sale, and it's available on Super Rare. But I always make derivatives of my work. So this is the first one I ever sold of Haseta in Oregon. And then what I did was I went in and I made this derivative called a meme card. And if we go back to my account, it's this one right here. And you can see that there's sort of this vintage tourism poster that I made with, the bus going down the Oregon coast. And when you play it, it actually switches over to this meme version, which is the bus, kind of like synthwave, cyberpunk style with all these little PFPs, which were very popular in Web3 and NFTs for a while. Still popular, but not as much. With a bunch of iconic art that have been collected, 3D character. This is Punk6529. So this meme that I made was for his collection. So it kind of fit the theme of him being in the bus. And then, a bunch of cultural stuff and everything kind of animated together. And I've got a bunch of collectors who own this. Character-wise, I'm not very good at. So what I've done, I could show you for this, definitely not the right person to ask questions about, is I've brought in pre-rigged characters. So there's 2 in this scene. One is sitting up here in the top of the bus. One is doing some fishing. And the rest of these are just images. They're just 2D planes with actual images on them. So you can see this is here, and you can look in the back. There's all sorts of these little planes, and each one has an image projected on it. So it looks like it's just sort of, hanging out in the background, but you can't actually see it because you don't need to, animate it and move around. All I've really done with these characters is I've basically adjusted their position. So if you look at this guy up here, he has an armature. So an armature has all these little boxes, right? So this is the arms, this is the shoulders, this is the legs, and I've basically posed it. So see when I lift this up and down, how the arm moves, and if I lift this up and down, the leg moves. And all I've done for this scene is I've just posed it to look, like he's sitting on the top of the bus. But there's so many tutorials out there on how to animate this and keyframe it and make it, do exactly what you want it to do. But I'm definitely not the person to do that. I definitely am much more focused on environments, so these 3D scenes. And right now, what I'm trying to do, which I can show you, is I'm trying to make, if you've ever seen the movie Pulp Fiction, there's this case at the front of there's a case that they're trying to acquire back, let's say, from some people during the scene, and you never see what's in the case. Yeah, we'll make it Blender. You definitely can, but it's not what I'm doing today. I'm not doing, this full animation. I'm just doing a still scene, but you definitely could do some animation, and you could definitely make a short movie. Last breath, what I would tell you to do if you're just learning is the very first thing I ever did in Blender was this right here. Okay, so right here is a donut. And this is very famous in Blender. Let's see if I can find it. It's over here. This is a very famous thing in Blender that a lot of people started out with. Really struggling. Let's see if we get that. Yeah. So this is what a lot of people start out with in Blender. It's the donut tutorial. If you go on YouTube and type donut tutorial by Blender Guru. Just looking. Yeah. By Blender Guru, and he teaches you how to model this donut, and you can actually animate it. And I think in his latest tutorial, he's done 2, one maybe 5 or 6 years ago and one a year ago. He helps you learn how to make this donut and then actually animate it into a little short film. So I would, if you were learning, I would 100% do that tutorial, learn how to make the donut. I did this 2 years ago, and now I'm going to use it in my scene as just like an Easter egg in the background. But this is something I actually modeled myself, and you can see, cool thing about Blender is you get stuff like this, right? Where, some random weird perspective you get in the scene, and you can actually see this dude on the back and the bus, and then the donut. So I would do that tutorial. But what I'm focused on right now is I'm trying to show basically this tulip fidenza, which is a piece of art. I'm trying to show it in the glasses of this character. So I'm just trying to adjust to kind of fill the frame with the tulip. So like that. And then going over to this one. Adjusting this, and I want to rotate it so that it's exactly the same, and I want to scale it in to get the aspect ratio correct. Just now I want to grab, I'm just going to tune this in so that it's actually covering properly the glasses. So probably can just delete these, and then I can just grab this and just basically trying to keep it covering. Cool. Now this one, pulling this one out and scaling it down so it's about the same width as the glasses. And I'd say that's probably pretty good. We got both tulips in. We zoom out. We got this this cool reflection in the thing. So if I go back to here and I go to this, you're probably not even going to be able to see this in the scene. But it's the fact that it's there that matters. So if we look in, I mean, it's just a blur, right? You don't see anything. But I don't care. I want this just to make it clear that there is something glowing in the eyes. People are pretty observant, so they're going to notice that they're definitely going to notice that something is off with the glasses compared to normally they're dark. I think they're green. I can't remember what they actually are. Just kind of curious. Yeah, so they're green. I guess that's right. Pretty sure that's right. Yeah, so they're green in the. This is the profile pic. So they're actually green in the photo. Just to see if there's anything in the chat. Yeah. So they're green in the photo. So now they're a little bit different color. Whether people are going to notice this or not, we'll see. But the idea being that it is reflecting the tulip, which is going to be sitting down here in the glasses. Is the angle right, proper? I'm not sure, but you know, at least. Yeah, we get crazy with the angle, it starts to distort because again, it's not a 3D object. But I think that's pretty good. Okay, so we got 6529 in here. We got the characters on the top. We've got the art glowing here in the background. We actually switched this over to night mode. So this is another thing that I've been kind of working on today, is to figure out like how I can make it. So for example, this meme bus should be invisible in this scene. So this is my day scene, okay? And then in my night scene, it should be visible. So yeah, I'm not sure if that's working or not, but we'll figure that out. We got a half an hour left. Yeah, if there's any questions, you know, go ahead and hit me up. But yeah, I'm basically just slowly working away on this one. And, you know, hopefully we're going to get it right. Other thing I noticed is that I think when I wrote the scene originally, I think I took, yeah, I did. Oh, damn. Okay, so if you look down here, I took the hubcaps out. I don't know why I did that. So I don't know why the hubcaps got taken out. So we've got all these wheels, and I don't know, the best way might be just to duplicate these and bring Yeah, I think I might just duplicate the wheels and bring them over to the... Oh, it's because I flipped them. That's so stupid. That's so stupid. There we go. When I rotated them on the side, I guess I rotated them the wrong way. Because I think that I should have, hopefully on both sides, yeah, I've got this glow going on. So it looks a little insane right now, but I think once we actually get the bloom going, we wanted to have this on here. I don't know what this is. If this is part of the side. So I'm just going to select, yeah, it was that. I don't know if that was on the other side of... just doing a quick check to see, yeah, what was it? So there was a group. Okay, so these were blue, and then there was a there was the green there. So I don't think that these are supposed to be pink, and I think there's really just going to be like a neon glow underneath. So if I go into this, I think there's going to be a bunch of stuff that's this neon. So yeah, let's go neon. Actually, let's just change this to green, neon, aqua. Here we go. And then this one, same thing. This should be aqua. We'll see how that works with the bloom. And then underneath, I think there was a glow, and I'm not sure where I had to put that. Let me see. Maybe it was from... There's something glowing. Yeah, this neon under. So I think I may have just made... So I made that glow and that glow. So that's what's causing, which is not realistic, but that was just what I did at the time. I think it would be probably easier to put like just like a neon tube under here. So what I'll do is I'll just assign these to a metal, which is probably one of these ones, and this one to a metal, which is that one. And then I think we would do is just we'll do a manual neon glow. So I think probably the easiest way to do this would be a light and an area light. And let's see where this is. So see if this does the trick or not. Just make sure it's not coming down the side. Yeah, just kind of like a neon blue. Just coming out from underneath. It doesn't have to be a lot. Something like that should be good. Okay. Artwork is fine. This is fine for now. This is fine for now. This is fine for now. I think the bus is solid. I want to see what it looks like with a render with proper bloom lighting. So just, you know, having... yeah. Other thing I want to try is if I duplicate this, okay? And I'm going to call this atmosphere day and atmosphere night. And I'm just going to kill the day one for now, and I'm going to just play around with the night. So this is, so atmosphere is, you know, doing a bunch of things, but it's kind of adding a lot of noise into the scene, but it's really about adding, it's basically adding, it's basically adding particles in the air, but the effect of that is, it's again like a really interesting thing. So Eevee in Blender is a simulated render engine, so it's part of like trying to predict what lighting is going to look like, predict what you know, the textures are going to look like. And Cycles is meant to be an actual, and there's a name for it, I don't remember what it is, but basically it's trying to simulate correctly the light bouncing in the scene, and it's actually simulating that. So it takes a lot longer to render. It's not as good for animation, but it's more photorealistic. The problem is our atmosphere has particles in it. And when it's fog, those water particles are very thick, which is what you get, you know, the beautiful kind of fog. And when you put a light in the fog, it blooms out and you kind of see the light more than just the light bulb. But if you ever looked at, you know, a light bulb at night, it really is just the light bulb, and our eyes sort of play tricks on us if it's bright, because it kind of gets brighter in the scene and expands beyond the actual, say, location of the light bulb. So in Cycles, there is no natural bloom. You can add it afterwards in post, or you can simulate it, or you can better simulate it with adding particles to the atmosphere. And that has other effects, like it makes the background, you know, even more hazy, but it also makes the light reflect differently on different sides of the scene. And it also adds, it reduces the lighting because there's more light particles bouncing off of the side, which means, you know, which means that the actual lighting gets less. So to give you an idea, if I drop this down to 0, this is with no atmosphere. Everything gets very bright, everything gets kind of just, but if you bring it up to 0.01, this is with a lot of atmosphere where there's barely any light getting through and barely anything that you can see. And then obviously as you tweak in the middle, you know, you can go 0.05, there's going to become a point, and we can actually add a little bit of emission to this, 0.01, where you get fog, right? So now you can't even see the background, you can't even see the mountains, but you can see everything, and you get, you know, what looks like a foggy scene. So the trick is to balance these into something that feels like a night sky, and you know, there's really nothing. I mean, I'm sure there's a science to this, but to me, it's just a bit of trial and error until you get something that feels, you know, like a little bit of fog. And, you know, I'll probably end up, you know, could probably end up tweaking this 1,000 times. Because I don't want, like, I don't want full density, because of what I want is the sky to be coming through. But you could, you know, you can do things like you can change. So what we're working with here is this atmosphere. See, it's I don't know why, actually, to be honest, why it's like that. But what you can do with the atmosphere is you can also, set it up and kind of play with where it is. So for example, if you bring it down like this, bring it up, scale it up this way, you can just watch it in the background. See as it goes across the Cathedral rock. So as I bring it down, it's clear, but as I go up, it brings the fog up. But if you go high, see? So basically you can have it so it's sort of just, and you can actually fade it out too. So it's just over top of this, but it's also covering, the front of the scene. You can also double it, and you can, you could bring it right in front of the scene, but then, the camera is basically going to go through it before it goes up to the sky. And you can change the density of this to 0.01, 0.01, right? And then you get this. So this is something that I always end up tweaking all the way through the project. But, for the most part, something like this feels not bad. Kind of a little bit of, density here, but then you kind of see the stars coming through. Whereas if you go like this, you lose a little bit of that. So something like this is kind of cool. Change this slightly. This is the anisotropy, which, I mean, the best way to explain this is the amount of this means like the light, the stronger the light is, the more you're going to get these particle reflections. So it's sort of adapting to the light. There's a technical explanation, but watch, see, my lighting is on the left side. So the more I add, it sort of lights on there and not this side. But this side, it covers a bit more. So yeah, I mean, I'll tweak this all the way through, but something like this feels pretty good. And now what I want to do is just sort of look at the lighting and see what's happening. So the moon is doing some of that light, but I think there's also a lot going on with the bus itself. If I go to the world and I bring this to 0 and I go to the moon, there's still quite a lot of light going on the bus. So what I can do now is just get a little bit of the actual emission tuned in here on the bus. So let's just for fun, let's go back to the bus, and let's go grab some of these materials, and let me just kind of zoom in here and see what's going on. So the pink is these ones, and let's see what the emission value is. So let's bring these down to 1. I don't know, we'll see when we actually do the bloom how this looks. So this one's at 1. Green is fine. This is okay. I'd like to get like some localized fog. And that might be another option. So here's a good example. So one of the things we could do, which, there's, again, probably better ways to do this, but let's duplicate this. Let's bring this down, okay? What we're going to do is we're going to place it. We're going to just place it in a way where it's sort of covering. Oh, did we lose it? I don't know what happened there. Yeah, I think it's there. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're trying to place this one in a way where it's probably behind the guy, but in front of the bus. Right? So you can kind of like see this, bring it up. We can scale it down, bring it up. But something like this might be kind of interesting. So, and we can add like a bunch of noise texture to this and like a bunch of stuff to kind of break it up, but just to get an idea. to see how this would look. So if we turn back on the moon, which is pretty bright, but it's also lighting up the background, right? So like, so you can kind of see the haze there. But what I want to do is I also need to turn back on the world lighting. So even if I go to 0.5 for now, so there's kind of the world lighting. And the moon is really, well, it's kind of the combination of the world lighting. So I think that's just to do with that reflectiveness of the bus. Okay, let's do one thing at a time. So here, so this, let's just show you this part. So this is like the kind of the background fog. So if I go, oh shoot, I just realized I probably messed something up for this, for the day scene. Okay, so if I change this and I say this mid-ground, I'll say this fog mid-ground, okay, and we call this, let's call this atmosphere mid-ground. Okay, so just so we're consistent. So now if we bring this up, what we're getting is atmosphere just in this particular box. So now if we drop it, you can kind of see it coming in, but it's covering the bus, but it's not, we don't want to cover too much of the mountain range in the background. So what we'll do is we would add like, we would end up adding a bunch of noise and gradients to it so that it actually fades up. But for now, we can do this, and we can actually change this, and you can see it come, if you go to 0, you can see it really comes in. It's just got a harsh line, right? So if I go 5, yeah, I mean, the effect is there. It's not perfect because, you know, it's got a harsh line. When we render it, you'll see it even more, but it gives you an idea. And then you can maybe bring this down a little bit. This is the background. And cool. I think, you know, for the most part, I think this is kind of the effect I want. It's probably a little bit strong up here, but we'll bring it down. And you know, essentially it's like fog rolling in. It's rolling in front of, like, it's kind of rolling in front of the bus and this tent and behind him, which is unrealistic. But the point is that we want this scene, yeah, like we want there to be a bit of separation in the scene so you can see where it is, right? See, it goes right between the two. So you want to have a little bit of separation in the scene between kind of the foreground guy, which is going to be, once we get it done, it's going to be pretty cool, in the background. So good enough for now. Now let's go into this lamp and let's see that this lantern light can turn back on. So there we go. So now we got a bit of a lantern light. I think the bus is fine for now. He's in the front is fine. We can't really see the PFPs, but we can fix that after the fact. I think that the bus is going to be all right. We'll do something to light up this character a bit more. I don't know what that's going to be, but we'll see. Okay. 9 minutes. I think let's save it. And let's make a bit of a to-do list. So water texture's fixed. We didn't do the mud and details, which we have to do for both. This is going to be the 1.3.5. So this is for tomorrow. So what we did do is we did some of the stuff in the meme scene. So we did replace the meme bus. So we're going to add this in to here. So this is in 1.4 under B. We fix the side of the bus. We change the night lighting. I think that's it. You know, we can also, just to add, we sort of move artwork to new locations. We also added reflection in 6529 glasses. We also moved all PFPs. We also added more atmosphere and fog. What else did we do? Yeah, we added reflection, we'll add tulip, reflection, glasses. I think that's probably it. One other thing that I'll quickly show, and then we'll go, is I do have to also, I'm just going to add a quick note here. Also, we also added new night scene. So this was what we were talking about earlier, is just, you know, I still think that the control here of the night versus day is going to be a bit of a problem. So for example, the lantern is now on, but what happens when I go back to the day scene? So it'll just be like adjusting those things and making sure that they're actually working properly. So I'll just say for 2.3.5, the real stuff that I want to do is I want to test day night scene. So this is for tomorrow. I'd like to add the luminance, which I might just mess around with for a second. So we want to add luminescence to the water. This was kind of a cool thing. I want to add kind of that glow to some of the ripples so that it sort of looks like it's got some luminescence glow. I want to do maybe the balloons tomorrow. And I want to add some string lights. I could do this tomorrow as well. Yeah, so to summarize, I'll just kind of walk through it. We're in pretty good shape. There's, you know, obviously the atmosphere and stuff, like cleaning this up so that we can see a bit more of the mountains, you know, but the foreground stays, you know, pretty foggy. These are going to light up, and Ryan Talbot is an artist I look up to and really respect. I'm going to light these up in the style from one of his previous works. I'm going to add some Ruben Wu lighting to the background, which is going to be pretty cool, and that's why we've got to see these a little better. I might potentially think about doing some kind of carving texture in the background here. Been thinking about that. I don't know if that's going to work or not, but that's it. I want to do is we got to replace this guy with a Pepe, which I've got that asset from Lord Jamie Schill. Thanks to him for getting me that. So I'm going to add that asset in here. And then with this, we want to add that I said luminescence, but bioluminescence. It's like that, you know, kind of glow you get. And I'll get a bunch of references on top of the water here. And then this bobber is going to become like a cyberpunk style bobber. We've got reference for that here, something in this kind of feeling. And then I'll probably replace some of the, like this cooler and some other things over here. And then what I really want, and what I'm going to try to get for tomorrow, and I could do it myself, I just don't really want to go through the process if someone else has done it, is there's the Monument Game mask for the Skulls of Lucy. I really want to put one of these in the water and have it kind of lit so that it's clear that the Pepe is actually fishing for that as opposed to the typical fishing. So I think this is probably it. It's coming together, and The idea would be then if I add some detail, like I want to add maybe some string lighting, coming on the tent or through here, I can adjust both scenes to make it work. So there we go. It's work in progress for the 6529 meme card for the follow-up to Open Roads, Open Metaverse. And don't have a name for it yet, but I'll be back at this tomorrow at the same time, 5 a.m. Eastern. And then I'm gone for a bit, and then 2 o'clock Eastern today, I come back, and I made a decision over the weekend, which is that I've been working on essentially a interactive 3D world from Patagonia, which is the same process as I use 3D real world data. But I'll get into it a little bit in the later stream. I realize that there's a lot of disconnect there between what I'm working on in the afternoon and the morning. So I'm actually going to be recreating this scene with a proper full 2 kilometer by 2 kilometer replica. I'm going to be completely like revamping that background scene. Not for this I think will be okay, but for the next one. And then I'm going to be bringing that into Unreal Engine and actually getting that running as a fully interactive 3D scene that you can run through. So that'll be my afternoon stream. We'll go for 4 hours, and I appreciate the people that joined and the questions, and see you on the next one.